Hello, in this video we're going to be configuring a Dragino LPS8N LoRaWAN gateway to work with the T2U IoT platform. The LPS8N is a pretty good gateway. It's at a nice price point, 8 channels, and can connect to the internet with Ethernet, Wi-Fi or 4G. The 4G can be used as the main connection or as a backup connection. Once you've received your gateway and you've had it powered up for a couple of minutes to fully boot, you're going to need to connect to it so you can configure its settings to work with Telemetry2U. There's a couple of different ways you can go about doing this. By default, the wireless access point of the gateway is turned on. So if you open up your Wi-Fi settings, you should see a new hotspot available with the word Dragino followed by 3 bytes. These last 3 bytes here correlate to the last 3 bytes of the MAC address, which can be found on the label on the underside of the gateway. Go ahead and connect to that network. Use the password Dragino plus Dragino. It should only take a couple of seconds to connect. Once it does, you'll be able to open up a new browser and visit 10.130.1.1. It'll ask you for a username and password. The username is admin and the password is Dragino. Once you connect, you'll be taken straight to the gateway's homepage. The first thing you might want to consider doing is going over to the system menu and clicking on the firmware update screen. You can select the file you want to upload and hit the upload button. It'll then confirm the file with the checksum. After that, you can select to preserve the gateway settings, not that it should matter at this point because we haven't set anything up, and then hit the proceed button. The gateway will upload the firmware and reboot, and you'll be able to log back in the same way you just did to access the home screen again. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is connect your gateway to the internet somehow. In this case here, we've got the gateway plugged into the router directly with an Ethernet cable. You can see down in the bottom left corner when I hover over the icon that it's been assigned an address of 192.168.1.21. We could now type that address into our browser bar followed by the port 8000 and connect to the gateway that way. But in some cases, you might want to connect your gateway to the internet using Wi-Fi. In order to do that, you're going to need to navigate to Network and Wi-Fi. Turn your Wi-Fi client on, do a search for your access point under the Wi-Fi survey and enter your passphrase for your Wi-Fi. Hit the Save and Apply button. You might also want to consider to turn off your Wi-Fi access point. It won't work with the Wi-Fi client running. This will mean that you will no longer be able to connect to your gateway with the Wi-Fi access point, and you're going to need to determine the IP address that's been assigned to your gateway's Wi-Fi connection. There's a few different ways to go about doing that. The most common would be to connect to your router directly and have a look at what devices are attached, which should show you a list of what IP addresses have been assigned to each device. But this might not always be practical if you don't have the router login credentials or access to the router at all. The other alternative could be to use some software like Advanced IP Scanner, like you see here. It's free to download, safe. Once you install it, you can just hit the scan button and it'll give you a list of all of the IP addresses that have been assigned to each device. Once again, you'll be able to identify the Dragino device with the word Dragino followed by the last 3 bytes of the MAC address. Once you've determined the IP address, you can again open up a new browser and just punch that in. In our case, it was 192.168.1.21, but you'll need to follow it with :8000 this time to indicate to use port 8000. You can then connect with the same username and password as before, admin and Dragino, and hit the sign in button and you're straight back to the home screen. Now we can actually start configuring the gateway settings to work with Telemetry2U. The first thing you're going to want to do is go into the LoRa page and make sure you select a frequency plan that's for your region. In this case, the gateway is working in Australia, so we're going to be using the AU915 frequency plan. When using AU915 or US915, make sure you select subband 2. This is really important, or communications will definitely be intermittent. Once you've done that, just go and hit the Save and Apply button. Now, the next thing we're going to need to do is configure the LoRaWAN settings. So go to the LoRaWAN Semtech UDP page. Here, you're going to want to select a custom service provider. Now, we need to determine the correct address and uplink port to use with Telemetry2U. T2U uses a different address and port for each frequency plan, and the best way to determine what settings you need to use is to log into your Telemetry2U account and navigate to Admin, Gateway Maintenance, and just add a new gateway. Over here to the right, you'll see a table which will show you the server address and the port for each frequency plan. Go ahead and put those details into your gateway address and port, and just hit the Save and Apply button at the bottom of the page. Now all we need to do is add the gateway to the Telemetry2U platform. So take a copy of your gateway EUI from earlier and give the new gateway a name. We'll just call it Test Gateway. Same for the description. And paste in your gateway ID there. Make sure you select the same frequency plan that your gateway is using, in our case AU915, and scroll to the bottom of the page and hit the Save button. You'll be taken straight back to the index page where you should see that the new gateway has been added. Now, we just need to make sure that the gateway is actually connected and online. If you go to Admin and Gateway Status, you should see the new gateway that you've just added with the ID, and the relative time should say less than a minute ago. The gateway sends a keep alive message to the server every 30 seconds, and this is where this relative time comes from. So if you're not seeing that, your gateway's not connected, and you might need to go back and check your settings. That'll be all for this video today. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.